Okay, we're back. We're with Dave Vanian from The Damned. How are you, Dave?
Hello, I'm actually just lying in on top of my bed. I've just gotten up.
Well, it's always good to grab you. I know you just wrapped up a nice little run here in America, about to head back to the UK, and you got a big documentary coming out. How's it feel to see the history of the band documented like that?
Well, I haven't actually seen the documentary yet, but I'm hoping it does us justice.
Well, when you think back of the the early days, literally being the first punk band in the UK coming out with a single and album, what are your greatest memories of that era?
Well, the thing is, you have to remember that all of that happened so very fast that there wasn't much time to think. We were moving on to the next, first tour, first this, first that. So it all happened so blindingly fast. You didn't sort of have a chance to take it all in until it was some months later, or even a year later, to some extent. So it was, the first few months of our life as a band were pretty crazy. The first 6 months, definitely going on tour with Mark Bolan, and that album was recorded in a week.
Sure.
In one of the smallest studios you can imagine, on the tightest budgets. I mean, even the master tapes were someone's demos that they taped over.
Wow.
You couldn't even buy some new master tape, would you believe?
Well, what's your best memory of New Rose coming out, writing that song?
Well, you got to remember, New Rose was written by Brian. That was his baby. I think he'd been nursing that song for quite a while. I think when he formed the band, that was already there. That and Neat Neat Neat, so it was all ready to go. But as soon as I heard it, great song.
Well, we certainly over here in America, heard all the stories of the excitement on the streets of this new revolution in rock, and the kids. Going crazy at the shows and everything. What was that energy like to really see this?
Well, I think what that was, that whole thing was very similar to how, in a different way, but very similar to what happened previous to that in the late 50s, before the 60s, where first you got teenagers, and then teenagers got their complete freedom to do whatever they wanted almost. So then you got the psychedelic 60s and all the peace, love, and happiness and all the problems in the world that we were trying to put right, the beatniks and everything. But then for a while, it kind of got stale, if you like. People lost their way a bit, and then suddenly there was a new, I don't know if you'd call it a revolution, but certainly a new way people were thinking, and everything changed forever. Some things not for the better, I'd say, but on the whole, it's pretty good. I wish we weren't quite as cynical in the 21st century as we had been in the past. But there you go.
So really, every once in a while, you need to kind of shake things up, because people want something new. But if there's no substance, then there's something new going to come beyond that.
Yeah, that came from every aspect. Well, it wasn't just music. It was people who wanted to write, and painters and artists, and all the creative people were kind of frustrated and wanting to push the boundaries of everything and try new things. And I think that excitement was felt all over the world. It happened to start in certain pockets of the world first. Obviously, New York had been bubbling under for quite a while, a few years before it happened in England, really. And to a certain extent, Los Angeles as well, and then other places picked up on it. But yeah, it's quite amazing to be involved in it at the time, because it was very exciting. Everybody was trying to. It was a weird melting pot of people. It wasn't the same kind of people would gravitate together. It was all these people wanting something to happen, wanting to change things. They'd have all completely varied interests and likes and dislikes, but they were all bombed together by this common sort of frustration of trying to change things, I suppose.
Now, What did the Ramones mean to you guys? Where do they fit in the history of all this?
Well, the funny thing about the Ramones is I remember when they first came and they played in London, and probably the first 2 or 3 rows of the seats were all full of people that became bands very quickly after that night, you know. So they were hugely influential, I think. I think as a turning point, people saying, "Hold on a minute, I can do this," you know, and I can pick up a guitar and play 3 chords. I can do this, and even if they did it a totally different way, it just inspired loads of people. And they were very passionate, and I loved them because there was a throwback to the old Shangri-Las and Phil Spector stuff in there, but with wild guitars. So you know that was good for me because I kind of grew up on all the American garage bands, really, even though in Britain it wasn't a big thing. It was the fact I used to listen to a special radio station that went out to the Americans that were stationed in Germany after the war. And American Forces Network Europe used to put on shows with Wolfman Jack and people like that, and they would play The Siege and The Shadows of Night and The Doors and things like that, Strawberry Alarm Clock. And I used to listen to this thing, you know, cliched with the tiny, tinny transistor radio under my pillow at night, and think, wow, this stuff's amazing. But bizarrely, I didn't ever think I'd end up in a kind of band like that. There you go.
Well, like the Ramones influenced you guys, I know when you came out to L.A., you know, a lot of bands were formed. You know, could you remember the first time you came to Hollywood and what your impressions were of America?
It was a real eye-opener for us because I think especially on the west coast of America, people have always been very good to us, and you know they've understood us from the beginning, probably even better than they did in England, I think. And we've always loved it when we've gone there. It was a fantastic time, and it's got great memories, and it's just, you know, and also, you know, we were kids that hadn't been out of anywhere of England before. It was our first time anywhere, let alone on an aeroplane, let alone just to America. And I think there was a lot of excitement in Los Angeles. I mean, it was really, again, on an incredibly tight budget, and we were sleeping on people's floors, and part of it looked like we wouldn't even have shows and all this kind of stuff. But that added to all the excitement of it, I guess.
Absolutely, very spontaneous and real.
Yeah.
You know,
of course, you had great people like Rodney playing.
Oh, sure, Rodney Bingenheimer.
Which was our equivalent to John Peel, I think, in a way. You know, he took the stuff that kids were listening to and actually made, you know, you could hear it on the radio. Which, if he hadn't have done, I'm not sure if it would have been so easy. He was a great character too.
Yeah. Well, you've had an incredible run. What keeps you inspired to make music?
Well, you know, it's a bit of a cliche in a way. We still love what we do, and also we've never really hit the big time. We're still waiting. So we're still a bit pent up. There's a little pent up frustration still in us. But the driving force is still the music. I mean, I get on stage and it's not like, oh God, here we go playing New Rose for the 1,000 millionth time. Well, actually, it's like hearing it for the first time every night, which is weird, but it is, you know.
Yeah, there's bound to be somebody in the audience that never heard it before. Somebody new that somebody brought them to the show.
Well, nowadays there's people in the audience, and we do things like Neat 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 or whatever that have only heard other bands' versions, like The Offspring or something, you know.
Now, tell us the genesis of the documentary. How did that come about?
Well, basically, it was through our drummer. Really, he was contacted by Wes, and he basically started just coming along the shows and filming things. But the idea he didn't know what his documentary would be. I don't think he realised quite what he was getting into. He'd done the Lemmy one, but that was just, you know, obviously filming Lemmy and concentrating on Lemmy. But I think it was a bit more daunting because he realised that the complex personalities of the band, because we're all very different, but somehow magically we all get along and like each other's company.
Sure. Now I know after all these days, the great Captain Sensible Ray is still, playing with you. What can you say about Ray?
Oh, he's still as crazy as ever. He settled down a little bit, but not too much. he's still unpredictable from time to time, which I like.
Absolutely.
And I still think, unfortunately, he's one of Britain's unsung great guitarists.
Sure.
I think he deserves a little bit more accolades for his actual guitar playing. I think sometimes, unfortunately, his wonderful persona gets in the way of his actual people seeing what he does,
No doubt. Well, coming on your 40th anniversary next year, I mean, what an amazing run. Of course, the business is constantly changing, but what advice do you give to those young singers, young garage bands today that are trying to do this? What do you tell them it takes to hang in there and find their own style?
Well, I think the only thing I'd say, because I wouldn't like to tell anybody what to do, but I feel that you got to keep an open mind to all forms of music and not be blinkered by things, so not get stuck in a rut of this is what you're supposed to play, because there are no rules and there never should have been. And, if you have a dream of something and nobody likes it even, you should pursue it anyway, because that is true to yourself rather than try and go the easy route, But, just do it. I mean, I keep hoping there's going to be a whole new musical revolution that I go, wow, this is great, that wipes us off the map, but it doesn't seem to be happening yet. It's gotten very fractured now of the music business the way it is, I think. Because there's great music, but it's everywhere and harder to get to in some ways, although you can on the internet, it seems there's not so many avenues to push it down where people hear it on a bigger scale. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, without the MTVs and so much of that, it's all kind of scattered.
Yeah, I mean, people used to complain about chart shows and all that stuff, but it did give a sort of focus to things that we've lost a little bit now. And I think because I discover interesting stuff all the time, but I always wonder, if I didn't find that by going somewhere else on the internet by accident, how would I have found it? How would I have ever heard it, But, and I think music now is easier to make than it's ever been with the advent of all the technology, although I think it's probably harder to get paid for anything now.
Sure. Well, Dave, we really appreciate your time all the way from Damn, Damn, Damn through Music for Pleasure and the Black Album and, None of This Earth, So Who's Paranoid? And we can't wait for the documentary, Don't You Wish That We Were Dead? Thank you so much for so many years of the Damned. Dave, hope to hear many more.
Thank you.